Cheryl Plouffe, meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal with you for our developing stories, the nor'easter and the impact that it had on the states. We'll also talk about a clipper that's now moving over Ontario and colder temperatures returning.
Very, very sad. Look at that, the deck torn right off. Those winds, yeah, were well over 100K anyway. And you think about a hurricane, category 1 strength would be 119. So a winter hurricane in some ways.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, this one had snow on top of it.
That's right.
And when you have the temperatures as cold as they are, that water comes in and nearly it's like freezing rain,
yeah,
only on homes.
That's right. Right? Yeah, totally. You know, I was actually visiting this area this summer. I keep saying this, but it just Cape Cod, you know, Provincetown, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, beautiful place in the summer. Can't even imagine how it would have been out in those regions.
And you know, these are areas too that are accustomed to wind, right? You live along the water, you know what to expect. But I'm sure that people who live there were maybe they were expecting this storm to be as bad as it was, considering the forecast.
But look at the radar. You can see the radar is trying to pick up on that mixed precipitation, maybe even freezing rain, but it's not really heavy rain, so the radar is going to have difficulty detecting that precipitation because it's so light. So there's actually a freezing drizzle advisory right now. So heads up to anybody traveling in those areas along the Trans-Canada between Maple Creek and into Winnipeg and even north. You're going to be into some slick driving conditions today.
Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, just on the bottom edge of this whole precipitation shield, looking at less than 3 centimeters of snow. The totals are increasing, 10 to 15 centimeters over northern Ontario, including Thunder Bay, 5 to 10 centimeters.
That's right. And then down towards the south in the GTA, 5 to 10 centimeters. We know what 5 centimeters can do to the roads in Toronto. So heads up, tomorrow's commute home could be very slow. Give yourself some extra time. It will just be snow. There's no freezing rain mixing into this scenario, which is great. But, you know, I'm not looking forward to the commute home.
No, I mean, we know 3 centimeters can cause problems. So 5 to 10, yeah, this is going to be a sizable impact.
And by the way, I just want to say that clipper also heads for areas like Boston and into the Maritimes again. So another round of it for them.
Yeah, the cold air is one of the big stories that's going to be, well, it gets colder in the east. We've been breaking records as of late, but that's all coming to an end as the high pressure builds in from the north, and that's going to be the story across the west.
Nice to have you along. Little segment that I'm calling the System Showdown. Let's get you in front of every storm system right across the country. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. Let's take a look at the west coast first. Some moisture here. This ridge starting to break down, so our temperatures are going to be cooling. Watching an Alberta clipper that's developing. We'll talk about that. And then more snow on the way as this low departs and another one moves into the same areas that were hit so hard. Boston, into the Maritimes, the Canadian side of the story. Let's talk in the west first. So that high pressure area still in play, but again, that ridge, that upper level ridge definitely breaking down. We are looking at some rain and higher elevation snow up through the extreme north, but dry down through the south. Let's go to system number 2. That's through the prairies, and there's some freezing rain potential along this warm front right through Winnipeg. Back to the west through Maple Creek, you have a freezing rain advisory. So just giving a heads up, you could see some slick conditions. Into your afternoon, that snow will push through northwestern Ontario. So again, the chance for some mix, some snow north of the front. And here's about how much you might get. 5 to 10 centimeters, not out of the question for areas like, you know, Grand Rapids, down through the south, around the Inner Lakes region, 10 to 15 centimeters. So yeah, there's some snow. It's an Alberta clipper. It moves fast. It goes into Ontario next. You guessed it. So let's start that part of the story. Southwesterly winds out ahead of this system. Snow to the north, extremely heavy snow through Timmins, Sudbury, through parts of Quebec, eastern Ontario. As far as amounts, 10 to 15 centimeters expected through Timmins, Kapuskasing, Pembroke, 10 to 15, down through the GTA, 5 to 10. And I want to give you a heads up, this is going to start tomorrow afternoon. So your drive-in shouldn't be too bad for Torontonians, but as you go home, you want to give yourself extra time. All right, the last system I want to talk about, first of all, that one I just talked about in Ontario will be moving toward the east coast. That's the next big storm that we're going to be tracking. Let's talk about the one that's still departing. So wraparound moisture around that nor'easter, still bringing in some snow through Halifax, through parts of the Maritimes, Nova Scotia. This is what we call a trowel, and it stands for trough of warm air aloft. So when we pile that warm air up, we can still get precipitation out on the backside of a storm. So it's still departing. Winds will be calming. High pressure brings in a nice sunny break into your Thursday and Friday. Halfway through the work week, and it's Cheryl Pliff and Jaclyn Whittal in with you. Here's some of our developing stories that we're tracking here at the Weather Network. What are your thoughts about this? You know, when people say, oh, it was a bust, New York City didn't get the snow they talked about.
Okay, well, my perspective is this. The storm was a very high impact storm for Boston. It was pretty much bang on for Boston. Yes, New York City didn't see as much in Times Square or Central Park. Still saw a sizable amount of snow, but the track was just slightly off to the east by what, like 150 kilometers?
Yeah, that's what
and that can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Look at Long Island. Long Island, in some cases, like 60 centimeters of snow. So in my view, this was not a bust. It was just simply how the forecast is, how it works,
That's
right?
How
you try to
make
make
exact science. John, you know, you picked up 47 centimeters, but they easily could have got 30, right? You just never know how much snow is going to fall in one specific area.
You know what I find interesting? That the GEM, which is the Canadian model actually did very well with this system as opposed to the other models that were used by most of the meteorologists in the States. I find that really interesting because we don't often see that kind of situation.
A for us Canadians. That's our Canadian model doing its thing. Minus 10 for Fredericton this evening, minus 9 for St. John. Of course, Dr. Doug will be joining me.
Article online that talks about what to do if you are in Winnipeg and you can't obviously use the water from your tap. You have to use bottled water in certain situations. My understanding is that they are going to be doing some more testing on the water later in the afternoon, so we'll have to see whether or not we can see that lifted.
All right, so hang in there, and yeah, you'll have to get the bottled water out of the storage room.
And it's difficult to find.
Yeah.
I think in most cases shelves are empty.
Fair enough. Yep. And on top of that, you're dealing with some snow, 10 to 15 centimeters for the areas north of Winnipeg. But you could see some freezing rain or even just freezing drizzle, you know, when it's just that low-level moisture, not really falling as heavy rain, but still can make those roads really slick.
And if we progress that into northern Ontario, because of course we're going to track this storm over Ontario.
It'll be more of an afternoon kind of setup for you in Toronto and London and Windsor. All those areas are going to start off their day quite nice, but on the way home, make sure you give yourself lots of extra time. And of course, Cheryl and I being with you tomorrow to track that storm along with where it goes next, because it is headed to the East Coast. Stay with us. Oh yeah, you gotta love the Long Ranger. This is where we take the weather forecast that you see in the next few days, and then we go beyond that and tell you what you can expect in the Long Range. So we started January off very cold. We talked about the big warm-up.
Right.
It delivered.
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
Pacific air took hold of the pattern for the past 2 weeks. Most of the country has been above seasonal. One place really stands out, southern Ontario, the GTA, southern Quebec. Well, we've had a couple of days above seasonal. Overall, the past 2 weeks really haven't been mild.
We kind of got gypped out, didn't we?
Sure did.
Okay, let's go to our overall national story. You had promised this as we start February. Very cold air.
Arctic air is taking over once again. Now, the focus of the cold air will be eastern prairies into the Great Lakes, but Alberta, certainly a noticeable cool down, a couple days of below seasonal temperatures, and an active storm track continues for Atlantic Canada.
That's right. I want to talk to a storm by Friday that'll be moving on the East Coast.
Right. Later Friday into Saturday, another system for the Maritimes into Newfoundland. Not as strong as the past couple systems, but still certainly will be impacting travel. Some light precipitation near the Canadian-U.S. border and the prairies, and a nice start to the weekend for southern BC. Some unsettled weather moves in on Sunday. Most of this is light. This is not a major storm system. This potentially
That's the elephant in the room right now. This storm on this map's like, wait a minute, Dr. Doug, what's going on with this? Well, some models say there's going to be a big storm.
Right. A Gulf low that will track towards the Great Lakes will have a significant impact on southern Ontario. Too soon to tell. Then a new low will develop off the northeast coast of the United States and take a track towards the Maritimes. Potentially a significant system for early next week. Definitely want to tune in for updates on that.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that one for sure. Temperatures, as you can see, you know, if you don't believe us, just have a look at the forecast. Yeah, minus 24 for Winnipeg. Hang in there. We're getting through this winter.